What's going on, everybody? It's Webster Solid Man, the voice of fragrance, and we're here with Corissa Grant of Worthy Chaos, a new comic that's been out, which has a Kickstarter starting on April the 18th for issue number 3, right?
Four.
4, sorry, issue number 4. We're going to talk to her today just about, where the Worthy Chaos come from, her journey into comics, and what she sees in the future for Worthy Chaos and any other endeavors that she has. Carissa, how are you? Well, Carissa,
Good.
how?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on. This is great.
Well, thank you for joining me. Where did Worthy Chaos come from? What was the inspiration for it?
So this was actually written between me and a co-writer. We were actually role players, and I came up with the story like 17 years ago, and I role played for about 15 before I actually found her. And then when I finally found her to ask her to take the role, we wrote about 10 novels worth of.
Wow.
Yeah, and 5 of those novels are this series one, Redemption, and then the other 5 is a spinoff, and we're still writing for series 2 and a prequel. So there's a lot going on. But yeah, this is it wasn't meant to go anywhere. It was just complete fun. We
Right.
fell in love with the characters, fell in love with the story. But when we were done with series 1, we're like, this is really too good to not, share. Plus, we really want the characters come alive on page. So that's mainly the inspiration of the making it into a comic book.
Okay. Now, with that, you were saying before you've only been doing comics for how long now?
I started about 6 months ago, October.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I just jumped into it. I told my co-writer I'm going to make these into comics, and she said go ahead. And then I kind of jumped into it. I hired an artist, and then the night I hired an artist, I realized I didn't know how to make a script. So the next day I had to get up, watch a few videos, and like, okay, I could do this. And then I think in 2 days I had script 1 written out,
Wow.
and yeah, and then I realized it was actually 2 scripts because I forgot that dialogue needs to be shortened. My letterer was like, do you realize people want to see the art? And I was like, yeah, I guess that's slightly important. So I cut it in half, and then I had 2 issues. So that was easy. So,
That's what YouTube, love it or hate it, it's always a great resource for figuring out how to do something.
oh, it was fantastic. I watched like 2 videos, and I was like, all right, I'm good to go. Like, it's the best how-to you can find is YouTube. So
Now, were you or are you into comics at all?
yeah, when I was younger, my older brother got me into Ghost Rider, and then on my own, I got into Batman. So mainly it was Batman and anything Dick Grayson related for Nightwing and whatever. But Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze, Danny, the original, all of that was like my favorite. And then I was into it for about, I want to say like 10 years, and then I don't know, I think there was one huge crossover that I just couldn't afford it at the time. So I was like,
Yeah.
kind of got away from it, and then I really didn't get much into it, but I always liked it. Like, I still watch like the superhero movies and everything, but collecting comics itself was kind of on the wayside. I still have all of them. I have boxes. But this was a whole new adventure that I hadn't even thought about until it happened. And what happened was, because it was a role playing thing between the two of us, it wasn't like a novel. I mean, it was novel length. It was actually longer than an average. They were like 90,000 words each, but it was written between 2 people.
Right.
So it wasn't something you could just print and that. So I was like, you know what? We love reading it. I read it all the time. I'll just print it out for us. And I said, let me look up an artist just to do a cover for us. I'll print it out at like, there's a couple of sites you can do it at. And that was my reminder to come here. And I said, these look really cartoony. I don't know if that's what you want for our characters on the cover. And she's like, yeah, cartoony's fine. I was like, make a really good comic book if you're going to do cartoony. And that's kind of, that night I went out and found the artist. So,
Got you. Yeah, I was going to ask you which Ghost Rider, because those of us of a certain age, like when I got into comics, I was introduced to Ghost Rider via Danny Keach in the '90s, and then
the
I
original.
learned of Johnny Blaze,
Yeah.
through that. And I was like, so you got to ask, and then even those a bit younger, with the latest incarnation, and I forget his name with the car, and I love him.
Well, I don't
He's
even
so
know.
cool. You got to ask. It's like
Danny.
every generation has their own Ghost Rider now, which I think is
Oh,
really
yeah.
awesome. So
Yeah.
I had to ask that
I
question.
was, I was Danny. and then when Spirits of Vengeance came in, my brother's like, "Oh, I have the original." So he was into Johnny Blaze before
Right.
I even knew existed. And then I had to get Spirits of Vengeance and some of the original. But
The
yeah, it was
Pale
Danny
Days.
for me. Yeah.
Awesome. Now I see that you utilize, at least looking at synopses and some of the videos, you utilize a lot of Egyptology in your book. Is that something you're very passionate about, or you just thought, hey, this would be really good to incorporate that into the book, into the role play?
I actually study a lot of religions. Like it's actually a lot of like the angels and demons that are in there are all
Mhm.
from scripture, and they
Okay.
all have their proper duties or whatever they would normally do in scripture.
Okay.
Like the main character Seraphina is an angel descendant. Her father is Ramiel, which is actually the angel that judges souls, and that's kind of where it started from. Because with that, I don't know why, but 17 years ago I was thinking, what would he carry those souls in? And that's when I created this little weapon thing that is our logo now, and it holds the souls, and he would take them to heaven and get them judged. And then Draven's demon descendant, his father is the chaos soul Asmon, and he would try to steal the power of souls from him. So that's kind of what started like the whole war between heaven and hell. So it's heaven, it's hell, it's it's Catholic Christianity, and then we have Anubis, and later in the series, in series two, it's actually more religions. It's Celtic, it's Greek,
Okay.
it's more of the Egyptian. So it's kind of like they're all going to war on either side. So but yeah, he's not bad in this. He's just being used, but because everyone's like, Anubis isn't a bad guy. I was like, no, he's not bad. He's being controlled, and he's gonna figure it out and side with our characters later on. So, but everyone, this became a fan favorite. Like we did not expect him to just be like everyone wants everything Anubis. This is my emotional support Anubis, but I everyone's like, I have so much merch for Anubis now, mostly because we wanted it, and then everyone's like, oh, now we want it. So, but now we have covers with him, and he gets more and more into it. Like in book two, he follows them. Do you know? I don't know if you know Resident Evil, the games, or at
Yes.
all. So, if you know Mr. X or a Nemesis, how it tracks them, where that's what Anubis winds up doing in book three. He actually stalks them through whatever. And so that's it. And this one, he's just kind of chasing them as he's being commanded to do so. But yeah, so but he became very popular.
That's awesome. I love, one of the things personally I've always loved is I loved how writers and creators in many different mediums have been able to really utilize religious iconography, religious stories to really craft um, very intricate, detailed, but also in many effects brand new stories with sort of existing characters, even going more so into lore and history than most of us even know. One of the things and this is way back in the 90s, um, the Run on Vampirella, they delved a lot in that heaven and hell, Lilith. And I love that because at that time in the 90s, that was something I'd never seen before in comics. And obviously see a bit more of it now. But I love it more so because that attention to details that creators take with that sort of source material, it is not ever fluff. There's a lot of details, a lot of research that goes into it, and I always take my hats off when creators do that, because it takes a lot, and there's a lot of respect for that source material in that regards as well. So I'm really interested to seeing more with that, especially checking out Where the Chaos. But I'm going to ask you this though, um, how has the Kickstarter experience been for you so far?
So we've only had one major Kickstarter. I did like I want to call it a soft opening with an original artist that kind of screwed us over. We lost like $5,000 with him, and
Mm,
yeah, we had to start over. But it was worth it because him screwing us over got us to the artist that we truly love,
got you.
and we had him redo one, and I lost some money on it, but now the book is exactly how we want it. It's how we wanted it to look, and all that stuff. So the major campaign that we just finished about 2 weeks ago, it went really well. We had 77 backers, and we brought in about $2,800, which is way more than I thought. Now I'm very nervous for the next one because it's the first single issue. That was 1 through 3. And
Okay.
this one's a single issue, so they already read it. Will they come back for more? Well, I've gotten very good feedback on it. I've actually had some people beg me to release it as soon as possible. So that's a good sign, but it's still, a single issue. And before it was a leap of faith. So now if they come back, it'll prove that people actually like it. So that's what we're hoping
Well,
for.
I will say this much from someone who is back comics and has waited 2 years between issues. They will keep coming back if they like your material.
Yeah.
Trust me. I am one
Well,
of those people who will keep coming back.
we have very loyal readers that have read it so far, seem to love it, and we're releasing about every other month. So like it's April 18th, June 20th, August 13th, and then in October we're releasing kind of a double last issue for book one and the trade paperback for all of them put together
Okay.
for Halloween, because Halloween marks 3 years that I've been with my co-writer, and 3 years and 1 year that we've been doing comics, and 1 year with our artist. So it's kind of like, plus it's Halloween, and
Right.
so
Exactly.
you have to have it on Halloween. And we do have a little bit different lore. I don't know if you ever seen the show Supernatural. It's kind
Yes.
of,
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Oh, then you should read this book.
Mm.
But it's in their universe pretty much. Like, in fact, in issue 4, they steal the Impala from a bar. So we have that happening, but also we changed a lot of things for ourselves. Like the angels are in their own body. They don't have to have hosts.
Right.
And some of the demons, the lesser demons, do. They have to have hosts. The higher demons, like Asmin, doesn't. He's a jerk all on his own. But our vampires now, to not piss off supernatural people and to be a little bit different, we have subspecies of vampires. So we call them clotters, and it's because their heart beats every 6 hours to prevent clotting completely and rigor mortis.
Mhm.
So when you cut them, it's a lot grosser because you've got this clotted, disgusting mess. So you have
Right.
that going for you. But to kill them, you have to chop off their heads or fire. And also, if they don't feed directly from humans for too long, they start to deteriorate and decompose. Mostly because we're zombie people, so we love the decomposing.
Right.
But they also have like a hive mind, and when one tastes the blood of somebody, they can all track them wherever they go. So
Interesting.
you have to destroy that hive to keep, to get away from them completely. And if one's destroyed, they will just continue to hunt you down. And then that's kind of like the revenge thing going on. So we have that little unique thing going on, which we like. So that actually, they get introduced in issue 4. They actually have a fight in a department store. So so it should be fun to do that one. I just realized that the issue starts with a bar fight and ends with a vampire fight. So, so there's a fight on each end. Our story is never boring. It pretty much starts off crazy. Um, in issue 1, the two characters are reunited after being separated for 10 years, thinking that each other was dead. During the 10 years, he trained as an assassin, she trained as a supernatural hunter, and then they got tricked into meeting in this town where they merged it with hell. It's kind of like Silent Hill. So like the
Hmm.
whole town is like enclosed and they can't get out, and that their goal is to try to get out while their fathers are trying to catch. And they don't know their fathers are there. They're kind of watching them and manipulating their everything, both sides. But their main goal is to get the weapon, which she was created out of, and the only way to get it is to kill her in a certain ritual, which they keep trying to do. So their goal is pretty much to survive. And now the characters are soulmates. They have been through multiple lives together, which the prequel does. The latest prequel is them meeting in this life, how they first met. But the prequel will eventually go back further on how the angel and the demon first met, and how she was created for the weapon and all that stuff. And it'll show them through multiple lives, like every 100 years. So you're going to have them in the Viking eras and the medieval time eras, and they get to go. And I get to learn the languages for each one because that'll be interesting to see how to do that. Um, but this is we're upset that the never ending story title was taken, because I can tell you this has got lots of stories going on. We just keep coming up with ideas, and once we're like, oh, we're never going to beat this idea, and then the next day we're like, oh, but we could do this. And so we really enjoy that we're still writing it back and forth. And I mean, I could sit down and write 6,000 words in like 3 hours. It just blows out. I don't even have to think about anything, which is nice. So it's good to have. And So yeah, so the first one's a little chaotic. They're trapped in the town. So you've got hellhounds, you've got zombie mermen, you have ghosts, you have the zombified Anubis, couple of zombies running around, skeletons, all that fun stuff. And then it kind of evens out a little bit, but it never actually slows down. It's just not as chaotic as going through those initial merging with hell things. So different.
That's a lot. That's a
You
whole
know, it's
lot.
chaos. It's got the name right in there, so you can't blame me. We warned you.
It sounds like more so what happened at the end of what a cabin in the woods when
Yeah,
everything got released, all the different
I do love
creatures.
that movie.
Yes, that is an awesome movie. All right, quick
Yeah.
question. You talked about zombies, a bit off topic, but all right, your top five zombie movies.
Oh, so I
I see the
just
Shaun of the
saw.
Dead post in the back.
So it's not really fair because Resident Evil was my favorite game of all time, and they kind of screwed up the movies. So
Almost.
yeah, as an independent, not to the video game, the first one was pretty good.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, it was good. In its own, it didn't have any of my characters, so I waited like what 6 years at that point to see my movie, and it's like, where are my characters? Um, I just saw Train to Busan, so you
Yes,
say it,
that's
and
great.
that was amazing.
Yes,
So that's definitely the top. I love Zombieland a lot. I
I
like
do
the
as well.
humor. Yeah, I like that. Shaun of the Dead, though, have to give my props to Shaun of the Dead. I loved Shaun of the Dead. Of course, Night of the Living Dead. You can't not like that. So I don't even know how many that is. How many is that? Is it five? Because
I don't know. It's a lot.
yeah,
You know what? There's so many great ones.
you can't go wrong. Like I love Dawn of the Dead. I like Land of the Dead because they did something different with the evolving.
Yes, yes,
So yeah, I really like that, and I thought that was very interesting. And you didn't know which side to choose because you're like, well, let them live and do their thing. But you're like, well, they are humans, so
right.
kind of. But yeah, so you really can't go wrong. I think it would have been easier to say which ones I don't like. And like I said, I'm mad at any fan based movie that they don't do the characters justice. I mean, that is like Leon was panning off of Ada. I mean, he liked her, but it wasn't that kind of. I mean, he was like a puppy dog in that freaking movie.
Right.
So, and he's my favorite. I mean, I have a doll that I had made in Japan back in the '90s from that. I had the jacket, which by the way, from Resident Evil 4, which weighed a ton. Like I couldn't actually wear it, and it was like I think it had to weigh at least 25 pounds. Like the thing was like solid. But yeah, you can't go wrong with zombies. Our book 3 is all zombies. It's pretty much how Resident Evil should have been. Like they're trapped in a city, and
Right.
you've got experiments. And the experiments from the labs are from their blood. They don't know it, but they're all from their blood. So it's still experiments, but they're a little bit weirder and a little crazy. But yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with zombies. Everyone loves them.
I
So
agree. I agree. It's interesting because I wasn't a zombie fan early on in my horror days, and I think what screwed me up was Return of the Living Dead.
yeah,
I saw that I was 9. It gave me nightmares for 2 weeks. 'Cause I was what, like 3rd grade or whatever it was then. So it was what, 87. Gave me
yeah,
nightmares for 2 weeks. And mind you, I watched so many horror movies, slasher movies, everything. And then so it scared me for the longest time from zombie movies, but in between then I'd watched Night of the Living Dead, both the original and the remake, and even Return of the Living Dead Part 2. But there was something about that movie. Flash forward 9 years later, I'm 18,
yeah.
freshman year in college, and it's such how old it is. Local video store in the town I went to school in, VHS tapes. I'm standing there. I look down, and there's a copy of Return of the Living Dead. 18-year-old me had a shiver go up his spine.
That's great.
Fast forward 2 months later, or 3 months, it was like Christmas time. I am now watching it on a sci-fi channel. And I'm like, I was scared of this. I'm laughing the whole time. I'm like, this movie's amazing. I can't believe it scared me. So, like, because of that, that is now one of my favorite zombie movies of all
Good.
time. And and Dawn of the Dead as well. It's like,
Of
so
course.
I totally get it. I totally get it. Understand. It's so many good ones, so many bad ones as well. But yeah, when characters aren't done justice, especially in adaptations, I that is a big pet peeve that I have as well. In Resident Evil, for some reason, I don't know why, and I did a rant on this after the Netflix show came out. How hard is it to get this right?
Right?
It's literally right there. I
Yeah.
don't understand how Hollywood consistently gets Resident Evil wrong when there is like you can watch playthroughs of people doing
Right.
like there's the movie right there. But like the tone, the atmosphere, everything. Like how do you get
It's
this
the easiest
wrong?
one to get right. Like
It
the
really is.
characters are so easy. They're not hard to find actors that look like them. I
No.
mean, it's got a clear cut story that you can totally manipulate. And you know what was it? Welcome to Raccoon City.
Right.
So it had the characters right, pretty much. I don't know why they. I never understand why they switched stupid things. Like they changed where Brad went or whatever they did. It would have been a good movie, but they shoved like Resident Evil 1 and 2 into one movie, and you didn't
Mm.
have to do that. They could have done, if they wanted to do both of them, start with Resident Evil 2 and just kind of flash back to like Resident Evil 1, like going into the. But they literally jammed both in there for whatever reason. And I mean, the characters were better than the other ones. I mean, they did a couple of weird things, but they killed off someone that I think didn't die last time. I don't know. They did some things, but they tried to be fan based. I just feel like they tried to do way too much at once, and that's what kind of messed it up. Because my
Right.
husband didn't know the games at all, and he had no idea what was going on in the movies. He's like, "Who are these people? What are they doing?" I was like, "Yeah, it's a lot going around. I don't know about the orphanage thing, but I guess they never really talked about that in Resident Evil the game. I mean, I know Chris raised her. I RP'd Claire for 15 years. That's who I was RPing,
Okay.
mostly so I can write with the Leon because I thought that they should be together for the longest time, but they just refused to do it. But yeah, the characters were great. I actually started with Resident Evil 2 in the weirdest way possible. I don't know if you remember the commercials when they first came out with Resident Evil 2. I didn't even have
Yeah.
PlayStation. I saw the crocodile come out of the sewer and try to get Leon. And for whatever reason, I cannot tell you why, that made me want to play. I told my parents that whatever holiday is coming up, I need PlayStation. I think it's PlayStation 1. I need it. I need to get it. So I went out and got it. We rented the game, no instructions with the rental game. I'm
Right.
sitting there trying to play this character. Leon keeps walking into the fire. I'm like, this is the stupidest game ever. Throw the controller. My brother comes in the room. He's the gamer. He would play Zelda and all those games.
Right.
He picks it up, starts playing like it's nothing. I kick him out of the room, and then I got to play. And then I finally bought that game, and I remember because I bought that game and Final Fantasy VII on the same day. Like that, those are the two I bought. And then I realized in the instructions that there's an automatic aim, and I was so mad. I was like, "What?" But that was it. I was hooked. Resident Evil 2 got me hooked. I went and got 1, which wasn't as good in my opinion. I mean, it had a lot of keys. I mean, you
Right.
barely leave the mansion. But the games were just, I was just hooked. And then Resident Evil 4 came out, and that was awesome. And they just redid Resident Evil 4, and it looks the same to me. Like it
I
doesn't.
was going to ask you about that since you mentioned about the jacket. Were you interested in picking up the remake? Because it what
I was
is it
watching
this
the
week it came out
demo. It just
or
came.
next
I
week?
think 2 came out. Remake for 2 came out. I didn't get it. I watched some of the demos and all that,
Yeah,
but I
same.
I haven't played games in forever. And
Okay,
then I just saw 2 days ago the demo played for Resident Evil 4,
right.
and in my opinion, it didn't look that much different. You know what I
I
mean?
I'm glad I'm not the only one because that was one of the things about when they did the remake for 2 and 3. I'm like, oh, this
That's
looks, it's
huge.
a remarkably different from
Yeah,
what they did. Especially switching the camera and everything.
the
But
characters look amazing.
before, I'm like,
It already looked good.
I don't really like it looks up. I don't see a big need or difference
No,
compared to
Leon looked the
what
same
had
to
been
me.
done before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
I
don't know.
don't
And
know.
and in the demo, they killed the wolf. I don't know why. I mean, that was my favorite part, having the wolf come in. Oh, I mean, he sounded like an idiot. I was like, oh, it's the wolf. But I love that. But I don't know why. I was watching it being played. I was like, this doesn't. It all looks the same. I mean, I don't know. It did. All I remember though, the original. So there was when the original demo came out for RE4, I got to play it because of course, the guys at the 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 game store love me because it's I was in there all the time. So they gave me the demo. I get home and I'm I'm playing this game and I was so excited. I finally got into the first house and I'm like snipering people from the window, not realizing that I just got killed by the chainsaw. And I screamed so loud that my boyfriend at the time was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I got killed by a chainsaw." It was like I was thinking it couldn't get in. I had the dresser in front of there and I was
Right.
so excited, but yeah, I loved Resident Evil 4. Now I should play Resident Evil. I feel like Resident Evil 2 remade was it should have been done like 10 years ago. Like I wanted it so bad for the longest time. And Resident Evil 1 redone was great too. I mean, so much better, cutscenes and everything and all that stuff. But yeah, 4 to me looked I'm glad you said it because I mean I was just like, am I going crazy? Like I even said it
Yeah.
in the screen. I was like, they look the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
mean,
look that big of an upgrade to me
no,
either.
maybe the environment looks a little different, but it's still. I mean, to me, Leon looked exactly the same. So
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining it wrong. Maybe I had it in my head that it was better than it was. I don't know. But I like the original. So
It's not just you. All right. Well, before I let you go, let everyone know when your Kickstarter for issue 4 is happening.
okay, so issue 4 will be released April 18th. You can go to the pre-launch now. All you have to do is search Worthy Chaos on Kickstarter. We're the only thing that pops up. It's going to be released April 18th, but it's also going to have 1 through 3 with it, which you can do as an add-on, or you can get a higher tier or whatever you want. So you can catch up there. We also have the PDFs, which for $15 you get all 4. So you can do that, and you get the color version and the black and white version in the PDFs. So you get that. So, and we've got a
Right.
lot of cool tiers. We got the plushie. We have some statues. We've got pillows. We love merch. So we buy it for us, and it's tax deductible to sell it to you guys. So that's really how that worked out. So,
Sounds like
but
a
yeah,
good plan.
yeah.
And where can everybody find Where the Chaos on the net?
Okay, so you can find us on Twitter. We're at Worthy Chaos, or also on Facebook. We're at Worthy Chaos, and we also have a website that's worthychaoscomics.com, and you can buy the PDFs off of there for 1 through 3 now. And we have the printed versions there, and some keychains and stickers, and I think we've got hoodies and stuff all on there. So you can pretty much find us anywhere. Just search Worthy Chaos, and we'll pop up.
All right. Well, thank you, Carissa. I appreciate it, and good luck to you in your next Kickstarter.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Thank you.